Welcome back, people. Today, I'm going to be looking at the newly released Cozy Caravan, a charming and wholesome travelling merchant adventure developed by 5 Live Studios. Originally pushed into early access on Steam back in 2024, the game has just officially released on Nintendo Switch. And without ruining too much of this review, it really is a relaxing and surprisingly heartwarming experience that on the surface is simple and cute, but at its core, carries a much more meaningful message. And spoiler alert, I'm kind of digging it. So, Cozy Caravan, is it any good? Cozy Caravan is a top-down journey where the art of crafting, trading, and exploration come together in a beautifully cozy world. But this doesn't simply paint the whole picture. In essence, it's a cutesy life sim built around daily routines in which you navigate a beautifully yet streamlined world in your trusty caravan, steered by your good friend Bubba.
Bubba was my best good friend.
And carted around by your very own noble steed, Rigby the giant bumblebee. And together, the trio aim to create a kinder, gentler world where love and generosity prevail. Set within Harvest Vale, where all inhabitants are cute animals and every issue you encounter has a neat, tidy solution. Harvestdale is a place where happiness grows from even the smallest interaction. Spreading happiness is the goal of every guild rookie. The joy of others brings growth, enabling you to upgrade your caravan, learn new crafting recipes, and much more. If you're looking for ways to help, there's always someone in need, and that's the game's core. There is no financial benefit or culinary world domination at stake. Instead, the currency of the game is that happiness, of which sufficient accumulation will level you up within the Merchants Guild and upgrade your caravan to further enhance your food and progress you further through the story with enhanced wheels and bigger inventory space, just to name a few. Yes, I know what you're thinking. This all sounds a little corny. And it is, but the game never shies away from that. In fact, it fully embraces it and wears that badge proudly. And the premise of the game really is that simple. You travel from village to village, helping out the locals with tasks such as harvesting their crops or transporting them around between the settlements. And in return, you receive ingredients, recipes, and the pleasure of doing a good deed, which will ultimately allow you to create dishes to sell at the weekly market and unlock those upgrades just mentioned. The very start of your experience will greet you with a character creation menu. It's not the most in-depth system, but it works. You have an array of cute animal species, of which you also have a handful of colour palettes, outfits, and voices to choose from. It does the job. I've never been overly fussed with the character customization, but I know for some it's super important, but it fits the scope of the game and doesn't detract from the experience at all, and I'm personally fine with what it has to offer. Especially as red pandas are my favourite animals. What can I say? I'm basic. Mechanically, Cozy Caravan strips away 2 of the genre staples, combat and farming. You cannot fight, you cannot die, and you do not own any land or grow crops in the traditional sense. Instead, the entire game is built around a tactile processing loop. You forage and trade 14 basic ingredients such as wheat, corn, eggs, milk, and some fruit and vegetables, and physically transform them through simple, hands-on mini-games. Chopping vegetables requires timing and button control. Mixing batter means rotating the stick, all simple and quite effortless, yet surprisingly satisfying. And if you ever do get bored of it, you can automate it. But with one of those before-mentioned upgrades allowing you to batch cook, it really isn't an issue. And all of this is with the aim of creating the food with the highest kindness score, in order to sell to the locals of each town when you set your market stall up on the weekends. Now I said sell, but there is no financial transaction here. There is a cute animation of the customer flipping a coin over, but the whole point of these markets is to spread as much happiness as possible. You will have items that are sought after that week, and customers will come in with specific demands shown for a speech bubble above their head. It can be a bit frustrating at first when you only have the one table, but again, you can upgrade to more tables, bigger tables, and also rope in Bubba to help once you progress further enough into the game. There is a day-night cycle, but there is absolutely no pressure whatsoever, and that's one of the blessings this game provides. If you want to set yourself a rigid routine of travelling to each town and maximising the amount of ingredients you can receive, you can. But if you want to play hopscotch, skip stones in the lake, go fishing, help the local bar owners by serving, or just walk around and greeting the locals,
Hoyo! 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 Hoyo!
you are rewarded just as much. Every action you take spreads kindness and levels you up. You will never be punished for any choice you make or habit you create, and it's the perfect recipe for a cozy game in my opinion. Regardless of how slow or casually you take it, you will still upgrade your caravan and tools, which in turn make the crafting become faster, smoother, and increase the efficiency of the food in providing joy, and you genuinely feel your character improving at their craft. And I absolutely love the fact that you cannot rush through this as much as you try. There's no fast travel, no main quest line to speed through, just a slow and steady daily routine in which over time you find yourself falling into a rhythm, grab ingredients, process them, and prepare for the market. And you rinse and repeat as you aim to attend the game's climax, the annual Whiz Bang Fair, an event that will constantly be referenced throughout the game and be mentioned more and more as you progress through it. By far, the biggest boost to your happiness you bring comes in the form of the weekends, when you can finally set up your market stall and share your week's work. A handful of the settlements, with their very own items of the week, will allow you to park up and start trading. And for 2 in-game days a week, Cozy Caravan briefly becomes a management game, albeit a very gentle one. Customers arrive with requests and you serve them goods you've prepared. Each town will have more sought after items which will be shown on the map, and this will rotate every 2 weeks, so you will always have plenty of time to source the ingredients. It can get a little busy at times, but there's no real rush. The customers will patiently wait at the till, and you just have to replace any item that sells. In essence, it's a much more relaxed version of the Grand Bazaar Market or the shop in Discounty. But it's equally as enjoyable, finding and crafting the perfect dishes for each town. You can be as efficient as possible and seek out the town with the most optimal sought after items, or you can set up anywhere and just see what happens. It really does not matter, and I can't emphasize that enough. Everything you do feeds back into itself. As you spread more love and joy, you are rewarded with better and more efficient recipes, and you get stuck in a simple yet incredibly satisfying loop. At first, the lack of currency or deadlines can feel strange. There's no bank balance climbing, no min-maxing profits, but over time, the absence of traditional currency removes a surprising amount of stress. You're not necessarily chasing optimal returns, you're responding to needs, making food because someone is hungry, not because it sells best. You could argue that the currency has just been replaced, but it's hard to explain. It just feels different. It reframes the motivation from optimization to intention, and it feels pretty unique and fresh, and it goes incredibly far to build on Cozy Caravan's biggest strengths, its sense of community. Every town is filled with friendly faces, each with their own small stories and requests, and your only real task is just to be a good person/critter. It just works. The game constantly encourages you to stop, chat, help out, and even give lifts to travellers you meet along the road. These interactions don't always lead to deep narrative arcs, but they do reinforce the game's central theme: kindness matters. It's not about drama or winning, it's about warmth, and it really is refreshing. Visually, Cozy Caravan leans into the handcrafted aesthetic. Characters are animated with exaggerated squash and stretch, giving them a bouncy, toy-like personality, and they are so damn cute. The little silly jumps you can do and the noises you make when greeting the locals.
Hoyo!
It's all just so damn adorable. The environments are bright and vibrant, and the warm lighting gives the game a perpetual golden glow that just fits the tone of the overall experience. I know it's a bit of a cliche, but it genuinely does feel like a children's storybook, and the overarching theme fits that perfectly with its focus on peace and spreading joy. It really is a beautiful experience. But with that out of the way, This is only currently available on the Switch 1, and unfortunately, we all know what that means. The visuals have been scaled back in comparison to the PC version, and as much as I enjoy it, it has been significantly peeled back, and the best way to describe it is that it is very Switch-like, with the lower resolution and rougher edges we've become accustomed to. But for the most part, the visuals fit the feel of the game, and the performance is a stable 30 frames per second. The sound design reinforces the mood beautifully. The caravan wheels creak across wooden bridges, campfires crackle at night, and villagers mumble instead of speaking, giving interactions a universal wordless charm. The music stays gentle and melodic, always supporting the mood without demanding attention. It's a well-designed to feel safe, welcoming, and unhurried. But with that said, Cozy Caravan isn't without limitations or issues. The game's systems are intentionally simple, and once you've unlocked most upgrades, the loop doesn't evolve dramatically. The actions you perform in later areas are fundamentally the same ones you learned early on. For some players, that consistency will feel comforting, but for others, it might start to feel repetitive. The inventory management can also feel more manual than it needs to be for a game so focused on collecting and processing items. When friction appears here, it stands out more sharply because the rest of the experience works so hard to stay cozy. And it could really do with a method to sort through items, but it isn't a deal breaker at all, but a small reminder that Cozy Caravan prioritizes the tone and feeling over the systemic depth, and honestly, making that choice is fine as long as it nails it, and it does. My biggest irk by far is the fixed camera. In theory, it sounds fine, but boy, did it bring some frustration at times when looking for collectible photographs and froglets and trying to fish. The lack of ability to rotate and zoom in and out, while not overly impactful, would definitely be a nice addition. I'm not sure if this was a stylistic approach or a mechanical limitation. And I've spoken to a few people that actually prefer fixed cameras. So this is definitely a personal issue, but if I'm feeling it, some of you might as well. And to be completely transparent, I will add that I did encounter 2 crashes during my 25 hours, both occurring whilst travelling in my caravan, trying to switch to the interior mode to craft, and my screen just went purple. Not a huge issue as the game constantly autosaves and you just have to reload, but hopefully this can get fixed. And a slightly more inconvenient bug is that at times your caravan will get stuck, and no matter what you do, it will not budge. They have implemented a help me, I'm stuck button which will teleport you to the nearest settlement, but again, another small problem that adds frustration at times. None of these on their own are massive issues, but when you have an entire game and world created to escape and relax in, sometimes the smallest issues that snap you out of the immersion can feel much bigger than they are. But in the grand scheme of things, these didn't negatively impact my overall enjoyment of the game. Nonetheless, it's always worth mentioning, and hopefully a few bug fixes can go out. So, what are we talking price-wise? It is priced on the eShop for £16.75 or your regional equivalent. However, there is currently a 20% discount running until January the 21st, knocking it down to a very reasonable £13.40. That's $19.99 reduced to $15.99 in the US, or $25.99 reduced to $20.79 in Canada. For the average player, I think this is a fair price, but for any super fans of the genre, it's a bargain. It would take about 20 hours to see all of the content, but you can continue to play well beyond that point. It's just down to the individual. Now, having spoken to the developer, unfortunately, there are currently no plans for a physical version or a Switch 2 update. They did mention it's not entirely out of the question down the line, but as of right now, this is it. And as I said, with the amount of content on offer, it's a very fair price for what fundamentally is a good game. So, where does that leave Cozy Caravan? Honestly, in a really good place. It's not trying to be your forever game. It's not built for spreadsheets, mastery, or endless escalation. It's built to be a kind, giving experience. I am sure you can quibble over the theme of the game and if it's naive or a childlike storybook tale, but it wasn't created to be a social commentary of life. It's just a very cute, very fun game. Underneath its soft, storybook exterior is a thoughtful and emotionally deliberate cozy game. It doesn't overwhelm you with systems or complexity, it just commits to its whimsical, innocent essence about spreading more joy and kindness. Nothing more, nothing less. It lets you play without pressure, it lets you help without obligation, and for a while, it lets you escape. It has a few bugs and limitations, and stylistic approaches you may not agree with, but fundamentally, it's a solid game that's a lot of fun to play. And during the 25 hours I put into it, I never once got bored or wished for shortcuts such as fast travel. The whole point of the game is about exploring and creating your own routines, with no rush, no deadlines, and no pressure. And it executes that perfectly. It really is a brilliant little game.